bright objects in the night sky that can sometimes be misidentified as meteors or fireballs.
Flooding returns to a community still reeling from deadly floods 2 weeks ago, while the heat wave finally breaks across the east. Just 1 week before July 4th, there's concern celebrations could set off wildfires.
I absolutely think we should definitely restrict fireworks.
What's the best weather to see fireflies glow?
Humid conditions, they thrive with that in afternoon rainfalls.
And advice on how much sunscreen you should really be applying.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Emma Withrow. A fireball appears to have exploded in the skies over the southeast yesterday. The American Meteor Society received more than 200 reports of the Thursday afternoon fireball. Most came from South Carolina, but people in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, they also saw it too. A fireball is essentially a meteor that enters the Earth's atmosphere. So if any of the debris reaches Earth, it's called a meteorite. A homeowner in Georgia says that's exactly what happened, with rocks crashing through the roof of their home. Dozens of people also called 911 to report what they saw.
Straight down out of the sky. No idea what it is. Don't really know if it's an emergency, but it just is bizarre. We didn't see an explosion or anything, but something. Yeah, it wasn't huge. It didn't look like it was a plane or anything, but I don't know. It just looked weird.
And it was on fire and flashing, so coming down, burning. And it came down quick, so I didn't get a great look at it.
Wow, the fireball was so bright it was visible all the way from space. So this is an image that GOES 19 satellite, and you can see the bright spot right in the middle of the screen there. Green Bay meteorologist Phil DeCastro takes a closer look at fireballs and how you can tell the difference between a fireball and something else in the sky.
The point of light that you're watching isn't moving very quickly and lasts for more than, say, 5 or 10 seconds or so. It's probably either a satellite in low Earth orbit or some sort of aircraft. Now, sometimes you might see multiple points of light all running in a row. These are also not moving particularly fast. They stick around for more than a few seconds. And what you're seeing at that point is a line of Starlink satellites in low orbit, not a meteor breaking into fragments. Now, finally, if you see a bright light that doesn't last particularly long, but also wasn't moving very fast, you've probably seen what's called a satellite flare. Now, frequently, the results of an iridium communications satellite, so those are just reflecting the sunlight, but again, they only last a few seconds. Now, the common theme here is speed and duration. If you do see a bright object that's moving really fast and also lasts a couple seconds or less, there is a good chance that you've just seen a meteor or a fireball. Now, sometimes you just see a single point of light, but sometimes they do fragment and you'll see a couple points of light. And if you do see one, make sure you report it. The American Meteor Society does have a submission tool on their website.
Now to West Virginia, where a community ravaged by deadly floods earlier this month was hit again yesterday. Water filled the streets of Wheeling, West Virginia on Thursday. After the water receded, those same streets were filled with mud and debris. This is the same county where flooding 2 weeks ago left 9 people dead. There's no reports of injuries or deaths from yesterday's flooding, but we'll always keep you updated. Storms also rolled through Washington, D.C. region last night. The strong winds knocked several trees onto homes in suburban Maryland. No injuries are reported, but the damage is definitely extensive, as you can see. There's a threat of more severe storms today, but not in the east. The greatest risk is in the northern plains as well as eastern Michigan, especially in and around Detroit. So those storms are expected this afternoon and into the evening with very large hail and destructive winds, so keep an eye out for that. The heat wave that baked much of the East Coast this week finally broke for some, but not for everybody. So more seasonable weather is expected from New England through the mid-Atlantic today, but nearly 40 million people are still under a heat advisory or extreme heat warning. The largest area stretches from the south into Ohio and Pennsylvania. Most of these areas will see a heat index of about 100 degrees or higher, so stay cool out there. We're tracking tropics this morning. We start in the Gulf, where an area of low pressure has a 20% chance of becoming a named storm over the next week. Right now, it's located east of Mexico. Over on Mexico's Pacific coast, another area has a 90% chance of becoming a named storm. If it does, it would be tropical. It would be a tropical storm called Flossie. A wildfire that started earlier this week in Utah is being blamed on fireworks. The so-called Cedar Hills fire is now mostly out, but with the July 4th holiday right around the corner, officials are sounding the alarm about fireworks and the risk for wildfires. Natalie Wadas has more.
My husband and my son were driving home. They immediately saw the fire. They peeked through the townhomes and they saw a neighbor just with a bucket, just trying to put out the fire.
The Cedar Hills fire sparked Wednesday evening.
And at this point, I would say the flames were like 8 to 10 feet.
This one was really big. I've never seen like the flame that huge before.
People along Morgan Boulevard were evacuated quickly.
What I brought is 2 of my stuffed animals and all my clothes.
And people were left wondering what would happen to their homes.
The thing that was most frightening to me is how quickly it moved.
Today, crews are working to put out hotspots.
Right now, we assume that it's fireworks that did it. We're still investigating. We do know it was human caused. Our city does have firework restrictions in place.
I asked the mayor, do you think more should be done on the part of the city?
I'm not sure what more we can do to control people's choices.
I absolutely think we should definitely restrict fireworks. I feel like we have them on the holidays. The cities do great shows, and I don't feel like we need them in every neighborhood.
It's kind of sad because our beautiful mountains are just burned down, but we're very grateful that our house is still here.
Oh, well, depending on where you live, you might be able to see fireflies around dusk time. So what fires them up and brings them out? Well, meteorologist Zach Hatcher explains from Dayton, Ohio.
Several weather variables go into this. So warm nights in the 60s and 70s, and that has to be consistent. It has to be several days of that for them to come out and lay their eggs, of course. Humid conditions, they thrive with that in afternoon rainfall. So whenever you get some rainfall in the afternoon, some storms, it creates a damp environment. So when they wake up around sunset, they like that environment and they go for several hours lighting up the forest and wooded areas. Of course, dark environments are best for them. Thick clouds toward the end of the day will make it a little more favorable for them. So whenever you see those street lights come on earlier than usual, it might bring out some fireflies earlier than usual as well. And there's been several of them flying around the Miami Valley lately. We've had a string of very warm and muggy days and of course evenings, and they tend to thrive in that environment.
In West Virginia, bats are starting to appear in the evening sky, and officials are working to count the local population. Meteorologist Brandon Stover takes us to New River Gorge National Park.
Bats give many people the willies, but there's also a group that thinks they're cute. Regardless of how you feel, one thing is for sure, bats are very important.
Bats are just part of the, they're part of the ecosystem, insect control, other things like that. Pollinators, there are bats that are pollinators.
Recently, their numbers have greatly declined, mainly due to white nose syndrome, a disease that has impacted bats across much of the country. This is why biologists are asking for help with bat surveys at Grandview, which is part of the New River Gorge National Park. This bat condo at Grandview is where you'll find many of them. Besides giving the bats a nice place to rest, there was also another reason for its construction.
And it was built because the bats were roosting at Theater West Virginia, which is also here. And this way, they gave the bats another place to roost and not among the actors. Up there it is. Did you get it? They come out the eaves. And it's really neat toward when it starts getting dusk. You can hear them in there. You can hear them scratching and things like that.
The condo can hold up to 10,000 bats. Abandoned coal mines in the New River Gorge also serve as important homes.
There are 10 species of bats in the park. So Virginia big-eared bats and the little brown bats are the more common ones. They can eat their body weight in insects per night. I started this count last year with the park, and we've been averaging about 100 a night. In the 1990s, there was 1,000. We're just trying to get an idea of what is out there.
And for the latest weather news and video, be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code on the bottom left corner of your screen. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at why recent rain in Texas, in the Texas Panhandle, has been bad news for local farmers around there. And we'll help you better understand the difference between tornadoes and straight line winds.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn. Let's get a look at the Northeast for the day on Friday. More clouds down to the south, more sunshine up towards the north. Our next weather maker will move in later Friday into Saturday. That's going to bring some rain to areas, especially up towards northern New England. Maybe some showers and storms down towards parts of the Cape and Rhode Island. That moves on out of here. Eventually, we are going to see the sunshine return as we head into the day on Sunday. High temperatures today will top out in the 70s throughout the area.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Mostly cloudy through the rest of your Friday. We will see some scattered showers and thunderstorms popping up, but it will not be as hot as it has been in the days past. We get a little bit of a break from the heat, but it's likely to come back on Saturday. Still some afternoon scattered showers and thunderstorms on Saturday, too. But again, those temperatures, a little bit of a break. In the mountains, upper 70s, lowlands in the low 80s, with the exception of far southern Virginia. But we will be talking about the heat returning for Saturday.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. Warm and humid to start off Friday morning, with temperatures running once again in the 70s across the southeast. The humidity will be the fuel for showers and thunderstorms to develop primarily along the sea breeze boundary across central Florida and across the Gulf Coast, but pop-up showers will be possible across parts of the southeast, with even more rain heading into the start of the weekend too. Another hot one, not quite as hot as the past few days, with highs in the upper 80s and low 90s.
Presented by the National Weather Desk.
Passengers on a plane over northern Florida were treated to a light show thanks to frequent lightning. Even bigger bolts touched down in Birmingham, Alabama, along with some instances of spider lightning. This one very isolated shower dropped up to 1 inch of rain near San Antonio, and campers in Montana were rewarded with a spectacular view of the northern lights.
Listen to Off the Radar, winner of the National Headliner Award for Best Information Podcast.
When the heat's extreme, you often hear about what you should do, but what about the things you shouldn't do? Liz Bonas tells us some of the things to avoid when temperatures soar.
For example, don't exercise outdoors in the heat of the day if you can avoid it. Instead, Tri-Health Emergency Medicine Nurse Manager Bill Hawk says try for
early in the morning or late at night.
Second, don't wait until you're thirsty to take in fluids.
And hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. You can never drink enough water. Gatorade, Powerade, whatever's got electrolytes in it, that's good too.
Third, don't drink alcohol as your thirst quencher or too many caffeinated beverages. These actually dehydrate you. Fourth, don't skip your medications, especially if you have health concerns such as heart problems or diabetes, and you don't feel like eating because of the heat.
Don't stop taking your medications, especially if you're planning to be outside.
And finally, don't ignore the early warning signs your body is overheating. These include heavy sweating, muscle cramps, feeling dizzy or lightheaded. You might also notice weakness, fatigue, or confusion. If you do notice these, find a way to cool down, rehydrate, and if these symptoms don't go away, it's suggested you seek medical attention.
When it comes to keeping your skin safe in the sunshine, how much sunscreen should you actually apply, and how often? Victoria Sanchez spoke to a dermatologist and has more in this report.
According to the Skin Cancer Foundation, having 5 or more sunburns doubles your risk of melanoma, the most serious type of skin cancer.
Sunscreens are one of the best ways to protect ourselves from the harmful effects of the sun. They are safe and they need to be used over and over again.
Just in the summertime?
Year round. I wouldn't suggest just brushing your teeth in the summertime. And I want people to think about using sunscreen just like the dentist want you thinking about brushing your teeth. You want to do it every day and not just before you go see the dentist or the dermatologist.
Dr. Friedman suggests using SPF 50 or higher. Reapply every 2 hours or more often if you're sweating or go into a pool. And don't forget a hat, sunglasses, and UV protective clothing to keep your skin safe. So how much sunscreen is enough? Imagine filling an entire shot glass with sunscreen and putting that amount all over your exposed skin.
Needed rain can be a welcome sight for farmers, but another challenge sprouts up, which is an unwelcome competitor for crops. Drew Powell reports from the Texas Panhandle.
Across the region right now, ag producers and farmers are having to deal with weed pressure. It's a problem that is not new, but this year, courtesy of Mother Nature, it's greatly amplified.
Weed pressure, especially from like kochia and Johnson grass, and there's a few others that cause real problems because they can grow so fast. They grow up and they shade out the crop.
With these moisture events, the producers are having a hard time getting into the field and spraying. So weed control is getting more difficult by the day as the weeds grow. Of course, they get harder to kill the bigger they get, so it's becoming an issue for our producers.
If ag producers and farmers choose not to address the problem with weed pressure, they're looking at a negative financial impact come harvest time, courtesy of a loss of yield.
You don't want any competition against the crop, and a weed can be an invasive species that causes crop loss because it uses resources and nutrients.
We always say it's much easier to control the weeds if they never come up. We have seen it before where the weeds are so bad that you can have a total crop failure, but it's also not unheard of to have say a 50% reduction in yield if the weeds are not controlled properly.
Tornadoes and thunderstorms can both pack significant winds. So how do the weather experts tell the difference when looking at the damage? Meteorologist Violet Skybor explains.
Well, tornadoes produce different types of wind damage as opposed to a thunderstorm. When a tornado rolls through, looking at it from above, the trees fall in different directions, overlapping a pretty chaotic scene, as opposed to a thunderstorm. That rolls through with straight line winds, producing unidirectional falling trees, all in the same direction, and that's how we determine whether it was a thunderstorm or just a tornado. The strength of the tornado is determined by the strength of the damage. So there's a list that they use just to sum this up. There's 28 different categories with different types of structures or trees. Just to give you one example, a small barn or a farm outhouse, they use this right here to determine the damage that was caused. So whether there was a collapsed wall, broken windows, a broken door frame, a missing roof, they use this scale, expected. That is the wind speed that's expected to cause that type of damage. But if it's a little greater, they use the upper bound number. A little bit lower damage, they use the lower bound number. Now, if there weren't any buildings nearby when the tornado rolled through, they can use this scale to determine damage based on the trees. Hardwood trees including oak, maple, birch, and ash. If there were small branches that were broken off, about 1 inch in diameter, large branches 1 to 3 inches, or if the trees were uprooted versus snapped. Notice the expected number. That is the wind speed that is what we use to determine how strong it needs to be to cause that type of damage. And once we have the wind speed, we can plug it into the enhanced Fuhita scale. This is what we use to determine EF0 through EF5 ranking, 3-second wind gusts, which range from 85 miles per hour all the way down to over 200 miles per hour.
So in September of 1989, NOAA hurricane hunters flew into Category 5 Hurricane Hugo, just 1,500 feet above the Atlantic. New research, though, reveals this was the most turbulent flight in hurricane hunter history. This week on our podcast, Off the Radar, meteorologist Emily Gracie spoke to one of the members of that flight to learn more about the harrowing experience. Here's a preview of that episode.
September 15th, 1989, a NOAA P-3 Hurricane Hunter aircraft is flying directly into the eye wall of Hurricane Hugo. Satellite data indicates that it's likely a Category 3 hurricane. The team makes a decision to gather the best data and enter the hurricane at a low altitude, just 1,500 feet. Getting close to the eye, they realize this was a mistake. What happens next will go down as the most terrifying, most violent ride in hurricane hunting history.
The nose is in a downdraft, the tail is in an updraft, and at the same time, the plane is skidding sideways because the wind is dropping off so quickly.
Today, we're going off the radar and into the eye with one of the scientists that was on board this mission into Hurricane Hugo.
The pilot lost control of the aircraft, and right at this moment, the number 3 engine burst into fire.
This is the story of that flight and the recent research behind measuring just how brutal it really was.
It's just a very primal feeling of nature's energies that humans should not be messing with.
So you can find Off the Radar anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Just search it up and you'll see it right there. And time now for a short break. But first, we're going to take flight over California's Santa Monica Pier.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Got a few isolated pop-up showers and storms today across the Ohio Valley and the lower part of the Midwest. Even got a few out there in the plains for the day today. So a few pockets of rain across the area, but no widespread rain. But we'll have high temperatures in the 80s and 90s all across the Midwest today. Still staying in the 80s and 90s for the day tomorrow. 78 there in Milwaukee, and more scattered rain Sunday.
Good Friday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at your forecast across the region. We're watching for a few thunderstorms through the day. It'll be isolated to scattered at best. Otherwise, 80s, 90s for afternoon highs. Can't rule out a strong to possibly isolated severe storm near New Orleans through the day today. As we head into your Saturday, more summer-like conditions will drop to the 70s. Afternoons in the 80s and 90s with an isolated shower or thunderstorm chance.
Well, hi there, everybody, and TGIF. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. It is the final Friday of June, and it's still running cool in the PNW, just 60s today in the Emerald City, but a toasty and lovely 89 out of Boise, Idaho in the Treasure Valley. Heat back on in the desert Southwest with 107 out of Phoenix. We'll have some monsoonal moisture again blowing up over Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and fog back along the west coast of California. And that's the scene from here.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
So meteorologists often talk about rain chances during their forecasts. So how do they come up with that percentage? Well, meteorologist Vitas Reed explains.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Want to tell you a little bit about percentages and rain chances. We talk about that often as far as a chance for rain, and what that actually means when we show those percentages is it means the area coverage that you may see some spotty showers or a lot of rain in your area. So as you can see, 20% chance means in that forecasted area there may be some spotty showers. Not everybody will see it, but it is a better chance you might see it. When you get to 30 or 40% chance, that means like scattered showers, 40 to 50%. But then you get to 60 to 70%. That's numerous areas getting showers or thunderstorms. And then you get widespread showers when you're in that higher percentage at 80 to 100%. That gives you a little outlook of when we're talking about percentages. Not everybody gets to see the rain, but many might see it depending on where you are and how much rain is coming down.
Well, we'd love to share your weather content on the air, so you can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Emma Withrow. Make it a great Friday and have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.